Hello, my name is Kira Nelson and I'm here to give you some basic information about KOM, which stands for Karen Organization of Minnesota, which is located on Jackson Street in St. Paul, Minnesota. Before beginning my ESL classes, I embarrassingly didn't know about this group of people. After a quick and unofficial survey, I discovered many of my classmates were in the same boat. So I'd like to give a brief background on the Karen people and KOM before continuing. According to the KMO website, the Karen are an ethnic group from the mountainous border. Sorry about that, let me finish. According to the KMO website, the Karen are an ethnic group from the mountainous border regions of Burma and Thailand, where they are the second largest group in each country. They have long been subject to persecution and ethnic cleansing by the Burmese government, and many have been living in refugee camps in Thailand for years before resettling in Minnesota. There are approximately 6,500 Karen people living in Minnesota, with an additional 500 refugees from ethnic groups in Burma. St. Paul currently has the largest and fastest growing Karen population in the U.S. Alexis Waldstead, who is the organizational developer of KOM, added that the first Karen came to Minnesota in 1996, but a larger influx began in 2007. The KOM organization began in 2003, and it was started by Karen volunteers. And when I say Karen volunteers, I mean the volunteers were actually Karen people. The organization serves over 1,000 Karens, 220 of which are youth, and they experience approximately 150 walk-ins during the week, so they are busy. In fact, when I first called, I was met with this really frazzled voice that politely asked me if I could call back in about an hour because they were experiencing a high level of walk-in activity. The mission and vision of KOM are as follows. The Karen Organization of Minnesota's mission is to enhance the quality of life for Karen and other refugees from Burma in Minnesota. Their vision is to assist refugees to settle, integrate, and become increasingly self-sufficient, to foster cultural knowledge and understanding, and to strengthen organizational capacity and effectiveness to meet the needs of the community. KOM offers many different services. Among them are employment, social services, training and orientation, community health services, restorative farming program, Karen Empowering Youth for Success program, or KEYS. Most of the services are fairly standard, but I thought restorative farming and KEYS were pretty interesting. Seeing as farming is a common way of life for the Karen people in Burma, KOM is partnering with Minnesota Food Association, MFA, and World Relief Minnesota to provide opportunities for refugees from Burma to return to their old roots in farming. Restorative farming is designed to teach immigrants and refugees how to adapt their farming skills to Minnesota's environment. 5 Karen farmers also receive hands-on training in organic farming as apprentices at MFA's Big River Farms. And then, through a partnership with World Relief Minnesota, more than 100 refugees are offered community garden space, giving them opportunities to grow their own food, interact socially, and preserve a cultural tradition. KMO also partners with St. Paul schools and Roseville area schools to provide the following services for students from Burma in grades K through 12. Those services are academic support, career development, social support, mental health services, leadership training, and a mentorship program. Talking about KOM's partnership with schools brings up another subject, and that's ESL teacher partnerships. KMO currently doesn't offer ESL classes, but does offer referrals and help enrolling in ESL classes. ESL teachers also share attendance records for required ESL classes with KOM. There are certain social services available to refugees and immigrants, but some of those services are contingent on ESL classes. So teachers share their attendance records with KOM to confirm that those people are actually in those classes. KMO also connects with teachers regarding important vocabulary for new arrivals and also other things that they just think are really important for new arrivals to know about the English language. Also, ESL and primary teachers are encouraged to refer Karen students and their families to KOM for resources and services. As I was talking to Alexis, she shared one story with me about a teacher who had a Karen student who was being evicted from her apartment because the apartment building was being condemned. So she referred the student and the family to KOM, and KOM was able to help them with the legal process and also was able to then get them into a new apartment quickly. And so that sort of shows one way that ESL teachers can advocate for their students, but there are other ways as well. As I was talking with Alexis about advocacy, she gave me this advice. She said, get to know the culture of your individual students and their families. And then she went on to give me a short list of other common challenges for Karen and ways in which she advocates for the Karen people and ways that we as ESL teachers can advocate for them as well. So these are some of the common challenges. Transportation is one. KOM actually offers transportation classes on how to use the bus, how to figure out the schedules, what the protocol is, and things like that. Another common challenge is interpreters, finding interpreters, knowing when, letting the Karen people know when they should be given an interpreter, and then times when they may have to provide an interpreter themselves. Another challenge for them is civil rights, knowing what their rights are now as an American citizen, and finally, legal paperwork. Paperwork involving employment, involving apartments, things like that. I'd like to leave off with just a few facts about KOM and the Karen that I found interesting during my interview and my research of the website. And I've mentioned a couple of them, but I think they are worth re-mentioning. Minnesota is the state with the largest Karen population. I mentioned that it is estimated that there are about 6,500 Karen living in Minnesota, but according to Alexis, that number is closer to 7,500. The Karen came to Minnesota because it has a strong reputation of welcoming refugees, but they continue to come to Minnesota based on a family reunification process. I also mentioned that KMO began by Karen volunteers, but what I didn't say is that it's the first Karen-led organization, and as I mentioned, began as a volunteer group in 2003. Since then, KMO has grown quickly and has been very successful. I'd just like to add the location and contact information. KMO is located at 1394 Jackson Street, Suite 200, St. Paul, Minnesota. The contact information by phone is 651-788-7593. The email is info@mnkaren.org. And finally, my short list of sources. Thank you very much for letting me share this information with you today.